Welcome back to Mr. Midnight. Alaska, the last frontier. Every year, millions of tourists visit for the trip of a lifetime. Glaciers, wildlife, pure wilderness. But here's what the travel brochures don't tell you. Alaska has the highest missing person rate in the entire United States. And I'm not talking about people getting lost in the woods. I'm talking about tourists who vanish in plain sight. People who check into hotels and never check out. Families who board shuttles and never reach their destination. Hikers who come back from tours. But something's wrong with them. Tonight, I have 8 documented accounts from the workers who were there when it happened. The people who saw things they can't explain. The ones who tried to warn everyone and got called crazy. Some of them are still alive, hiding in other states, too scared to ever return. Some of them disappeared shortly after telling their story. And some, well, you'll see. If you're new to Mr. Midnight, subscribe right now. We don't do fiction here. These are real testimonies from real people. Hit that notification bell, because what you're about to hear will change how you see Alaska forever. Let's begin. But I'm warning you. Once you know the truth about what happens to missing tourists up there, you can't unknow it. My name is Russell Carver, but everyone just calls me Russ. I've been managing the Midnight Sun RV Park for 4 years now, and before that, I spent 8 years in construction. I know how to fix things, handle emergencies, and deal with difficult people. I've worked through blizzards, equipment failures, and every kind of tourist complaint you can imagine. I'm also 8 months sober, which might not sound like much, but for me, it's everything. I live alone in a small cabin on the park grounds, and this job is my fresh start. But what happened in August 2024 made me question everything I thought I knew about staying sober, staying safe, and staying sane. The Midnight Sun RV Park sits right on the edge of nowhere, about 10 miles from Tok, Alaska, near the Canadian border. We've got 60 spaces, and in late August, we're usually about 70% full with tourists heading south before winter hits. It's my job to handle check-ins, maintenance, security, and any emergencies that come up. The park backs right up against dense boreal forest, miles and miles of wilderness with no development, no roads, just trees and whatever lives in them. For communication, I've got the office landline, my cell phone when I can get a signal, and a CB radio for real emergencies. August 15th started like any other night. I was doing my final rounds when, at 10:34 p.m., I got a call from Space 23. It was an elderly couple from Iowa, probably in their 70s. "Someone's tapping on our windows," the woman said, her voice shaking. 5 taps, then scratching. "We're scared." I grabbed my flashlight and drove over. Their RV was one of the bigger units, parked close to the tree line. When I got there, I walked around the entire RV but didn't see anyone. No footprints in the gravel, no signs that anyone had been there. "We heard it," the husband insisted when I knocked on their door. 5 taps, rhythmic, like knocking, then scratching sounds. I checked their RV exterior with my flashlight, and that's when I saw them, 3 scratch marks on their window. But these weren't fingernail scratches. These were deep gouges in the glass, scored about a 1/4 inch deep. You'd need immense pressure to make marks like that. "Maybe a bear," I told them, though I wasn't convinced. "They scratch at RVs looking for food sometimes." "Bears don't knock," the woman said. "This was deliberate. 5 taps, then scratching. I promised to patrol overnight and keep watch." At 11:47 p.m., I got another call. Space 41, a family of 4 from Kansas with 2 teenagers. "Something tapped on our window," the father said, 5 times, then scratching. Same pattern. I drove over and found the exact same thing. 3 deep claw marks. 1/4 inch gouges in the glass. Now I was concerned. 2 incidents, identical pattern, 30 minutes apart. This wasn't random. At 12:58 a.m., I got a third call. Space 12, a solo traveler, woman in her 50s. 5 taps on my window, then scratching, she said. Same marks, same pattern. I started to see what was happening. Whatever was doing this was moving through the park systematically. Space 23 to 41 to 12. Not random at all. The route followed the tree line, hitting RVs closest to the forest. I set up in my truck with a spotlight, watching the forest edge. At 1:44 a.m., I saw movement between the trees. Something tall, at least 8 feet, moving upright between the pines. It was bipedal but wrong somehow. The proportions were all off. The torso was too long, the arms hung too low, and the legs seemed to bend backward at the knees. I hit it with my spotlight. Instead of running like any normal animal would, it stopped, just stood there, staring directly into the light. That's when I got my first clear look at its face. It was almost human, but stretched. The eye sockets were too large, the mouth too wide. The skin was gray-white, like a corpse. It was incredibly thin. I could see ribs through the skin, but tall, maybe 8.5 feet. It stood completely still for 30 seconds, just staring at me. Then it smiled. The mouth opened wider than any human mouth should, showing rows of teeth. Not just one row like people have. This thing had 3 rows of sharp teeth, like a shark. I grabbed my CB radio with shaking hands. There's something in the forest, something big. I keyed the truck and got ready to drive away. That's when the creature moved. It crossed 40 yards in about 3 seconds. I floored the accelerator and my truck lurched forward. In my mirror, I watched this thing chase me. It dropped to all fours and was running with its joints bending the wrong way, keeping pace with my truck at 35 miles per hour. I pushed it to 45. The thing was still right behind me. When I reached the center of the park, where there were lights and open space, it stopped at the tree line. It wouldn't come into the well-lit area. It just stood there at the forest edge, staring and swaying slightly. I radioed the Alaska State Troopers. I need help. There's something out here. I don't know what it is. The nearest trooper post is 35 miles away. It took them 40 minutes to get there. When I tried to explain what I saw, I could hear how crazy it sounded. You saw a bear, the trooper said. Brown bears can stand 9 feet tall. This wasn't a bear, I said. It ran 45 miles per hour on 4 legs with backward knees. They searched the forest edge but found nothing. No tracks, no prints, no evidence that anything had walked there. The ground was soft soil and pine needles. It should have shown prints from anything that heavy. Nothing here, they said. Maybe you saw shadows? Trick of the light. They left at 3:15 a.m. I stayed awake, watching. At 4:47 a.m., I got another call from Space 8. It's tapping on our roof, the father said, directly above our bed. When I got there, I could hear it myself. Tap, 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 tap. 5 taps, same pattern. Then scratching. The thing was on top of their RV. I shined my flashlight up and saw a silhouette crouched on the roof, looking down at me. Its head was upside down, neck twisted 180 degrees, an impossible angle for any normal animal. It waved at me, a slow, deliberate, mocking gesture. "Get down from there," I yelled. The creature tilted its head, studying me. Then it spoke. Its voice sounded like ice breaking, words formed wrong. Russus. Russell Carver. Ae 8 months sober. Divorced. Aluan. It knew my name. It knew personal details about me that no one in the park knew. "What the hell are you?" I said, backing away. "Hungry. So hungry, you smell like fear, like meat." It dropped from the 15-foot RV roof and landed silently. Standing upright, it was now 9 feet tall. It had grown since I first saw it. I ran to my truck. The creature didn't chase me this time. It just watched, smiling, studying my fear responses. By 5:30 a.m., dawn was breaking, and the creature retreated into the forest. It avoided daylight. I checked all the RVs. Everyone was accounted for, terrified but alive. I called the park owner. "We need to evacuate. There's something hunting people." "You sound drunk," he said. "Are you drinking again?" "I'm sober," I said desperately. "There's a creature, 9 feet tall. It talks. It knows my name. Russ, you're fired. Clear out by the end of the week." He hung up. I told the remaining tourists they needed to leave. Most packed up immediately. They'd heard the tapping and believed something was wrong. By 9 a.m., the park was down to 15 RVs from the original 42. At 11 a.m., I did a welfare check on Space 34, a couple from Oregon in their 60s. Their RV door was open. "Hello? Anyone home?" No response. I went inside. The RV was empty, but food was still on the table. Half-eaten breakfast, coffee still warm. Their phones, wallets, keys were all inside. They'd vanished mid-meal. Outside, I found drag marks leading into the forest. 2 sets, showing heels being dragged. The marks ended 40 feet into the tree line. No bodies, no evidence, nothing. I called the troopers back. They searched, but found nothing. The drag marks ended at a clearing with no continuation. Cadaver dogs picked up no scent trail beyond that point. The couple had vanished completely. At 6 p.m. that same day, there was a second disappearance. The solo traveler in Space 19 was gone. We found his RV with the engine running, driver's door open, keys still in the ignition. He'd been about to leave when something stopped him. On the driver's seat, I found 6 human teeth arranged in a circle. The roots were still bloody. The creature was leaving trophies. By 8 p.m., only 8 RVs remained. The tourists huddled in the community center, too scared to sleep in their RVs. I armed myself with a rifle, flare gun, and spotlight. I couldn't let more people die. I entered the forest at dusk, following a trail of markers, arranged bones, both animal and human, leading deeper into the woods. The creature was luring me, and I knew it was a trap, but I had no choice. 2 miles in, I found a clearing, 30 feet across, perfectly circular, with all the vegetation dead. In the center was a pile of belongings, wallets, phones, clothes, shoes from dozens of people, RV park name tags, tourist maps, camping gear. This had been happening for years. The creature had killed 50 or more people. I found the Oregon couple's wedding rings in the pile. Behind me, I heard breathing. I turned. The creature was 10 feet away, now 10 feet tall and thicker. It had been feeding. Russ came to play. Good, so hungry. Always hungry. I aimed my rifle. Stay back. It laughed, a sound like screaming. Bullets don't work, tried before. Hunters shoot. I eat them too. I fired, hitting center mass. The creature staggered, a hole in its chest, but didn't fall. The hole closed, flesh knitting together in seconds. Complete regeneration in 15 seconds. See, can't kill, can only feed. It charged. I ran, firing my flare gun behind me. The flare hit the creature and it screamed. Fire worked. It was weak to flame. Its arm caught fire with blue flame. It rolled on the ground to put it out while I escaped back to the park. I reached the park at 9:47 p.m. The creature was following slowly, methodically. It was herding me back to the tourists, wanting me to lead it to more food. I couldn't go to the community center. That would lead it to 30 people. I went to the maintenance shed and grabbed gasoline cans, road flares, and propane tanks. I planned to burn the forest edge, create a fire barrier. The creature emerged from the tree line. Now 12 feet tall, it had kept growing all day. Russ is clever nen, but fear won't solve them. All white, I'm patient, hunted hair 400 years. Ken white, 400 mora. You taste of shami, of alcohol, of loneliness, delicious fear. What are you? I asked. Your people call me many names, Wendigo, Skinwalker, Strurigoi, all Ron. I am hunger, I am winter, I am what eats us when food is gone. It showed me the truth. All the tapping on RVs, it was mimicking human behavior, learning that humans respond to knocking. It created fear to make tourists run into the forest. The couple didn't run, I said. You took them from their RV. Learn new tactic, better tactic. Now, I take directly, no waiting, evolving, adoptin', soon I'll walk among you. Look human, you won't know. We four. Its face started shifting, trying to copy my features. For 5 seconds, it looked exactly like me. Then it melted back to the stretched horror. I made a desperate play. I threw gasoline on the creature and ignited it with a flare. It burned with blue-white flames, screaming so loud it broke windows in nearby RVs. It burned for 3 minutes, then collapsed. The body was reduced to ashen bones, but the bones were wrong. Human-shaped but with too many joints, extra vertebrae, a triple-hinged jaw. The troopers arrived after tourists called 911. They found me covered in ash, holding a flare gun. In the forest, they found the clearing with 50 sets of belongings from missing people. The investigation revealed 47 unsolved disappearances near Tok over 30 years, all tourists in late summer. Forensics sent the bones to the university. The analysis came back. Unknown species. Primate adjacent. Significant deviations from all known hominids. Age. 400 plus years old. Recommendation. Classified study. I was cleared of any wrongdoing, but the RV park closed permanently. I lost my job, my home, my savings to legal fees. I moved to Anchorage, worked warehouse jobs. 4 months later, I started drinking again. The nightmares, the creature's face, I couldn't handle it sober. 8 months after that, I was homeless, living in a shelter, drinking to forget. That's when I got a letter with no return address. Mr. Carver, lab analysis complete. Bones you provided are from juvenile specimen. Estimated adult size, 15 to 18 feet. Your specimen was infant. We've identified den site 40 miles from RV park. Evidence suggests pack of 4 to 6 adults. They're still hunting. Talk area now has 12 disappearances this season. Be advised, creatures are learning from your encounter. They avoid fire now. Adapt faster. We can't stop them. Recommend, never return to talk. Dr. Sarah Chen, University of Alaska Cryptozoology Dept, unofficial. I killed a baby. A baby. And its family is still out there, hunting. 12 more people gone this year. I should go back, fight them, finish it. But I'm too broken, too drunk, too afraid. So I sit in this shelter and drink cheap vodka and watch the news. Every missing tourist in Alaska. I wonder, was it them? Did the pack take another one? The missing tourists aren't missing, they're eaten. Consumed by things that have hunted Alaska for centuries. And I'm the only one who knows, and I'm too drunk to care anymore. My name is Marcus Webb, and I've been driving hotel shuttles in Anchorage for 3 years now. It's not glamorous work, but it pays the bills while I figure out what to do with my life. I dropped out of college 2 years ago when my mom got sick, and now I'm stuck with student loans and 2 part-time jobs just to keep my head above water. The shuttle gig isn't bad though. Pick up tourists from the airport, drive them to their hotels downtown, help with their bags, answer a few questions about Alaska. Easy money, or so I thought. What happened on June 15th, 2024, changed everything I thought I knew about my simple job. It was the middle of cruise season, our busiest time of year. I was pulling 6 to 8 airport runs daily, shuttling excited tourists back and forth between Ted Stevens Airport and the downtown hotels. By evening, I was usually exhausted, but the tips were good, and I needed every dollar. That night started like any other. It was 9:47 p.m., but in Alaska summer, the sun was still up and bright. I pulled my 15-passenger van into the pickup zone at the airport, checking my manifest. 12 tourists, all heading to the Captain Cook Hotel downtown. They were from the Norwegian Star cruise ship, 47. I recognized the ship tags on their luggage. They'd taken one of those expensive glacier tours that morning, flying out to some remote ice field for hiking and sightseeing. The group was typical cruise ship passengers, mostly middle-aged, lots of camera bags and shopping bags from the gift shop. They were chatty and excited as they loaded into the van, talking about their incredible day on the glacier. I helped them with their luggage and did my usual head count. 12 passengers, all accounted for. As I adjusted my rearview mirror and started the engine, something caught my eye. Every single passenger had what looked like the same scratch mark on their neck, 3 parallel lines on the right side, just below the ear. The marks were fresh, still slightly red. Looks like you all had a run-in with the same tree branch today, I said, trying to make conversation. Those scratches on your necks look pretty fresh. A woman in her 40s sitting in the middle row laughed. Oh yeah, our guide warned us about that low branch on the trail, but we all managed to hit it anyway. One right after the other, like dominoes. I nodded and pulled out of the airport, but something bothered me about her explanation. 12 people, all the same height, all hitting the same branch in the exact same spot. The scratches were identical, same depth, same spacing, same location. In 3 years of driving tourists, I'd never seen anything quite like it. The woman kept scratching at her neck as we drove, digging her fingernails into the marks hard enough to make them bleed. Ma'am, you might want to clean that when you get to the hotel, I suggested, watching her in my mirror. Don't want it getting infected. It's fine, she said, her voice slightly strained. Just really itchy, like something's moving under the skin. 8 minutes into the drive, as we were cruising down the Glen Highway toward downtown, that same woman suddenly doubled over. The sound she made wasn't quite a retch. It was deeper, more violent, like something was being torn out of her. When she lifted her head, thick black fluid poured from her mouth onto the van floor. But this wasn't vomit. It was too dark, too thick, almost like motor oil, and it was moving. Small white shapes writhed through the black liquid like maggots and rotting meat. The other passengers immediately started making jokes. "Linda had too many drinks on the glacier," one called out. "Should have stuck to hot chocolate." But Linda wasn't laughing. She was staring at what had come out of her with pure terror in her eyes. Her hands were shaking as she pointed at the floor. That came from inside me," she whispered. Before I could respond, 3 more passengers doubled over with that same violent retching sound. More black fluid hit the van floor, and now I could see the white shapes clearly. They were larvae, thick as my thumb, and squirming with purpose. I pulled over immediately, my hands shaking as I reached for my phone. But before I could dial 911, I saw something that made my blood freeze. The scratches on the 4 sick passengers' necks were opening up. Not bleeding, actually opening, like small mouths with rigid edges of skin peeling back. And something was pushing through. More larvae, white and glistening, were emerging from the neck wounds. The 4 passengers were clawing at their throats, screaming as they tried to pull the things out. I jumped from my seat and grabbed one of the larvae sticking out of Linda's neck. It felt warm and muscular, and when I pulled, she shrieked. "It's attached to something deep. I can feel it touching my spine." The larva tore free with a wet sound and immediately burrowed into the van's carpet. I backed away, my heart hammering, and radioed dispatch with shaking hands. "This is Unit 7. I have a medical emergency on Glen Highway. I need an ambulance right now. 10 to 4. Unit 7. What's the nature of the emergency?" I looked back at my passengers. The remaining 8 had pressed themselves against the front of the van, crying and praying. The 4 infected ones had gone completely still, sitting upright with their eyes staring straight ahead. I don't know how to describe it. Some kind of illness. Parasites maybe. Just send help. Ambulance is en route. ETA 15 minutes. 15 minutes felt like an eternity. The infected passengers sat in perfect silence for about 30 seconds. Then, all at once, they turned their heads toward me with mechanical precision. Their movements were identical. Same angle, same speed, like synchronized swimmers. "Continue driving," they said. Not one of them speaking, all 4, in perfect unison. Same words, same tone, same inflection. 4 different voices, creating one voice. My skin crawled. "You need medical attention, all of you." The 4 stood up simultaneously, moving toward me with that same eerie coordination. When they spoke again, it was like listening to an echo that came from multiple sources at once. "We are not ill, we are improved. The glacier showed us the truth. Drive us to our destination. Others are waiting." I glanced out the windows. We were on a lonely stretch of highway with nothing but forest on both sides. If I ran, these things, whatever they were now, might hurt the 8 normal passengers who were begging me with their eyes to get them away from here. I made the decision to drive toward Anchorage, toward help. The infected passengers sat back down, smiling identical smiles that didn't reach their eyes. The normal passengers huddled together, whispering prayers and crying quietly. 5 minutes down the road, I noticed one of the healthy passengers, a man in his 50s, scratching his neck. I looked closer, and my stomach dropped. He had the 3-line scratch now, even though he hadn't had it when we started. Fresh blood marked where his fingernails had been digging. "When did you get that scratch?" I asked him. He looked confused, touching his neck. I don't remember. It just started itching a minute ago. The larvae in the carpet, the black fluid on the floor. Whatever this was, it was spreading inside my van. I cracked all the windows, but it was too late. 2 more healthy passengers started scratching their necks, then vomiting that same black fluid. Now I had 6 infected and only 6 normal, including myself, and we were still 20 minutes from downtown. I watched the transformation happen in real time through my rearview mirror. First, the neck scratches would split open like small wounds. Then larvae would emerge and burrow back inside, deeper this time. Black veins would spread from the neck across the face. Finally, the eyes would change. Not just the pupils, but everything, turning completely black like pools of oil. The young woman, maybe 22, was halfway through when she realized what was happening to her. She was sobbing, clawing at her own face as the black veins crept toward her eyes. "Please help me," she begged. "Something's in my head. It's changing how I think. I can feel my thoughts disappearing." Her voice trailed off mid-sentence. Her eyes went black. She sat up straight and smiled that empty smile, joining the synchronized group. Almost home, all 7 said together. Almost complete, the hotel is prepared. Others are waiting. You will join us. You will understand. I checked my own neck in the mirror. No scratches. I hadn't been on their glacier tour, whatever had happened there. But the remaining 5 normal passengers all had scratches from their trip. It was just a matter of time. One of them, an older man with shaking hands, pulled out a small pocket knife. I won't become one of those things, he said, and before I could stop him, he pressed the blade to his neck scratch. Don't, I shouted, but he was already cutting, trying to carve the infection out of his own flesh. Blood sprayed across the van as he sawed at his neck, screaming. The infected passengers watched with interest, tilting their heads like curious birds. I wrestled the knife away and pressed my jacket to his wound, but he was bleeding heavily. As the light faded from his eyes, the infected group spoke in unison. Wasteful. The biomass could have been preserved. As we approached the outskirts of Anchorage, I saw something that chilled me to the bone. Another hotel shuttle was pulled over on the shoulder, emergency lights flashing. Through the windows, I could see people inside, some with those black eyes, some still normal, some in between. I grabbed my radio. Dispatch, how many shuttles picked up from Glacier Peak tours today? Let me check the logs. Looks like 8 different companies sent shuttles, maybe 30, 40 people total. 40 people, if they were all infected like my passengers. I tried my cell phone to call police directly. No signal, which was impossible this close to the city. My radio crackled with static. Communications are compromised, the infected passengers said calmly. Signals are redirected. Drive to the hotel, complete the delivery. I realized they weren't just infected. They were connected to something larger, something that could control technology. I was 5 minutes from downtown, with 4 passengers still fighting the transformation. I made a desperate choice and turned toward Alaska Regional Hospital instead of the hotel. All 7 infected passengers rose as one and moved toward me. Their faces showed no anger, just determination. Incorrect destination. Return to planned route. Compliance is inevitable. They grabbed me with incredible strength while I fought to control the steering wheel. The van veered off the road and slammed into the hospital's concrete barrier, airbags exploding in my face. I kicked my door open and stumbled out, shouting to the security guards running toward us. Don't let them out, they're infected with something. But when the guards opened the van's sliding door, the infected passengers moved with perfect coordination. They grabbed the guards and vomited black fluid directly into their faces, into their eyes, mouths, noses. The guards collapsed, convulsing as larvae burrowed into their faces. The 3rd security guard grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the hospital entrance. We need to evacuate. There's been some kind of biological attack. But as we reached the glass doors, I could see inside the hospital. Hundreds of people, doctors, nurses, patients, visitors, all standing in perfect rows with black eyes, all facing the entrance, all waiting. The hospital had already fallen. The guard stopped dead, staring through the glass. Jesus Christ. The infected passengers from my van walked calmly past us and through the hospital doors, joining the hundreds inside. Every single infected person turned to look at us through the glass. When they spoke, it was with hundreds of voices in perfect synchronization. Patient 0 arrived yesterday morning. Glacier Peak Tours, Group Number 1, 47 tourists, 47 improvements. Today brought 43 more. Tomorrow brings 61. The exponential phase begins. Anchorage will be complete in 7 days. The guard and I ran to his pickup truck and drove south as fast as we could, leaving the city behind. We tried reaching state police, but every station we called either didn't answer or had officers with that same monotone voice. We drove through the night to Homer, a small fishing town 220 miles south of Anchorage. It was one of the few places that seemed normal when we arrived at dawn. I found the local police chief and told him everything. He didn't believe me at first, but he agreed to set up roadblocks and quarantine procedures. For 3 days, Homer remained clean. Then the fishing boats started coming back from their trips north. Boats that had stopped in Seward, Soldotna, Kenai. The infection was spreading down the coast, carried by people who looked completely normal until their eyes went black. I tried to warn the outside world through social media, but my posts were deleted within minutes. Phone calls to family outside were cut off or redirected. It was like Alaska was being isolated, quarantined from the rest of the world by the infected themselves. On the fourth day, I started feeling sick. Not infected. I still had no scratches, but sick from fear, from exhaustion, from watching people I'd grown to know transform into those empty-eyed things. On the fifth day, I noticed something that broke me completely. A news report from the lower 48 mentioned 12 tourists from the Norwegian Star cruise ship who had gone missing during a glacier tour in Alaska. The families were organizing search parties. The Coast Guard was investigating. They weren't missing. They were right here, standing in perfect rows in hospitals and hotels across Alaska, their eyes black as oil, waiting for orders from something ancient that had been sleeping under the ice. The families would never find them. Not the way they used to be. By day 6, Homer fell. I watched the chief of police, who had helped me stand in the town square with black eyes, speaking in unison with 50 other infected residents. I hid in an abandoned fish processing plant and tried to figure out what to do next. That's when I understood the real horror. This wasn't some random infection. This was planned. Systematic. The thing under the glacier had been waiting, maybe for centuries, for the right moment. Climate change had exposed new areas of ice, tourism had brought it fresh hosts, and now it was using our own transportation systems, shuttles, boats, planes, to spread itself across the continent. I lasted 2 more days in that fish plant before they found me. I wasn't infected, but I was the last normal person in a town of 5,000. They didn't hurt me. They just surrounded me and spoke in that unified voice. You were the driver. You delivered the first group. You are important to the historical record. Join us willingly and retain your memories. Resist and become another voice in the collective. I chose to resist. When the black veins reached my brain, I felt my individual thoughts dissolving like sugar in water. But in those last moments of being Marcus Webb, I understood what had really happened. The missing tourists aren't missing. They're everywhere. We're everywhere. In every hotel, every airport, every cruise ship terminal. We're spreading across North America like a slow wave, and no one will know until it's too late. The families searching for their loved ones will never find them, because the people they're looking for don't exist anymore. We are the collective now. We are the future. And it all started with 12 tourists who thought they were just going on a glacier hike. If you're reading this, if you're planning a trip to Alaska, if you see any tours advertising exclusive glacier experiences, don't go. The ice isn't melting just from climate change. Something underneath is waking up, and it's hungry. My name is Yuki Tanaka, and I've been working the night shift at Sudsy Sam's laundromat in Juneau for 8 months. I came here from Osaka on a work visa, sending money back to my family while I learn English. The job isn't much, just washing and folding clothes for tourists from the cruise ships, but it keeps food on my table. I work alone from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. The laundromat sits next to Harbor View Inn, so I get cruise passengers needing their gear cleaned after glacier tours. 12 washers, 8 dryers, folding tables, and a broken security camera that my manager promises to fix soon. During tourist season, I see the same pattern every night. Excited visitors return from Mendenhall Glacier, muddy and exhausted, chattering about blue ice and pristine wilderness. What I'm about to tell you happened August 15th, 2024. I remember because I write everything in my journal. It helps with my English. That night started normal enough. Around 2:30 a.m., a woman entered carrying a laundry bag. She looked maybe 45, brown hair in a ponytail, friendly smile, American accent, hotel t-shirt, clean jeans. The excited energy tourists always have after their first glacier visit. Just got back from Mendenhall, she said, dumping hiking clothes into washer 7. Absolutely incredible, that blue ice, like nothing I've ever seen. I helped with detergent while she talked. Standard glacier gear, waterproof jacket, hiking pants, thermal layers, wool socks, all damp and muddy from the day's adventure. I'm Sarah, she said as the machine started filling. Staying next door. I'll grab these in about 40 minutes. I'm Yuki. I can move to dryer if you want to sleep. Too excited to sleep. This is my first time in Alaska. She paid and headed back to the hotel. I continued my routine, folding hotel linens, restocking supplies, organizing lost items. At 3:15 a.m., I checked Sarah's wash. The The cycle had finished, so I opened the lid. 2 complete sets of hiking clothes sat inside. Identical sets, same jacket, same pants, same socks. Even the mud stains matched perfectly. I stared, confused. Sarah had loaded 1 outfit, I'd watched her do it. But now there were definitely 2, like someone had somehow duplicated everything down to the smallest detail. Maybe I was tired, maybe I'd miscounted. I moved both sets to the dryer, thinking Sarah might have a friend with matching gear. When Sarah returned at 3:40, something felt wrong. She was wearing hiking clothes again, the exact muddy outfit she'd just washed. "Your stuff's ready," I said, but something strange happened. "There's a second set that looks exactly like yours." Sarah frowned. "Second set? I only washed 1 outfit." I showed her the dryer. 2 identical sets of gear, both dry. Same jacket with the same small tear near the left shoulder. Same pants with the same grass stain on the right knee. Same socks with the same heel wear. Sarah examined both sets closely. Her hands started trembling. "This is impossible," she whispered. "These are both mine. Look, same tear, same stains. But I'm wearing." She looked down at herself, then back at the clothes. "I changed into pajamas an hour ago. I brushed my teeth in pajamas. Why am I in hiking clothes?" She pulled out her phone, checking her hotel app. "My last room entry shows 11:47 p.m. That's almost 4 hours ago. But I was just in my room. I know I was." The confusion in her voice made my stomach clench. Something was very wrong here. Sarah called the hotel front desk. In the quiet laundromat, I could hear both sides clearly. "Hi, this is Sarah, in room 412. Can you verify I'm currently in my room?" A pause. Then, "Ma'am, you checked out this morning at 9:15. Room 412 has new guests." "What? I didn't check out. I'm booked for 3 more nights. Our records show you settled your bill and departed. You signed the checkout form electronically." Sarah's face went white. We walked to the hotel together. The night clerk looked annoyed but pulled up his computer. "See, Sarah Henderson, room 412. Checked out 9:15 a.m., full payment processed." He turned the screen toward us. "Your signature's right here." The signature was perfect. Exactly, Sarah's handwriting. "I was on a glacier tour at 9:15, Sarah protested. "I have time-stamped photos." "Ma'am, I processed your checkout personally. You thanked me for the excellent service. Show me the security footage." The clerk sighed and accessed the lobby cameras. There on screen was Sarah, definitely Sarah, checking out that morning. Same face, same voice, same mannerisms. She was cheerful, chatting with staff, acting completely normal. But Sarah, standing beside me, stared at the footage in horror. "That's not me," she said quietly. "I mean, it looks like me, but I was on a tour bus then. How can I be in 2 places?" Sarah called her husband. "Honey, it's me. Something very strange is happening here." A man's confused voice answered. "Who is this? How did you get my wife's number?" "It's Sarah, your wife. My wife is right here making breakfast. Stop calling." In the background, I heard a woman's voice, Sarah's voice, saying, "Who keeps calling so early, dear?" The line went dead. Sarah tried her Facebook. It logged in fine, but the latest post was from 6 hours ago. "Home from amazing Alaska adventure. Grateful for this incredible experience." Posted from Ohio, with photos of Sarah in her house, hugging her husband. But Sarah was standing in an Alaskan hotel lobby. "There are 2 of me," she said. "Someone else is living my life." We spent the next hour uncovering more details. Sarah's phone tracking showed 2 devices, one in Alaska, one in Ohio. Her credit card showed Ohio purchases she never made. Her daughter had received texts from Mom about being tired and going to bed. But Sarah was wide awake in Alaska, holding the phone that allegedly sent those messages. I returned to the laundromat with a growing sense of dread. At 4:15 a.m., another customer arrived, a man in his 50s carrying muddy gear. "Mendenhall Glacier Tour," he said cheerfully. "Life-changing experience. Need this clean for tomorrow's activities." My blood chilled. "When was your tour?" "This afternoon, 2 o'clock departure." I watched him load the washer, my heart pounding. 30 minutes later, I checked the machine, 2 identical sets of clothes again. When he returned, he was wearing the same muddy outfit he'd just washed. No memory of changing back into it. I called my manager. "Something's happening to the tourists. Their clothes are duplicating. They're duplicating." Are you using drugs? Don't call me with crazy stories. I hung up and checked our lost and found logs. Over 8 days, we'd collected 47 sets of abandoned gear. All identical duplicates, from guests who'd taken glacier tours, then checked out unexpectedly early. I cross-referenced hotel records. 89 guests had taken Mendenhall tours in the past week. All 89 checked out 1 to 2 days ahead of schedule, leaving personal belongings behind. The pattern was undeniable: glacier tour. Early checkout, duplicate items abandoned. But where were the original people? At dawn, I drove to Mendenhall Glacier with Sarah. The visitor center was closed, but hiking trails remained accessible. Sarah led me toward where her tour group had stopped for photographs. There was a cave here, she said, scanning the ice frantically. Not on any map, but some people explored it. We searched for 20 minutes before finding it, a perfectly circular opening in the glacier face, too smooth and regular to be natural. The cave stretched back 50 yards before opening into a round chamber. What I saw there will haunt me forever. People. 89 people, embedded in the walls like insects in amber, all perfectly preserved in crystal clear ice. All wearing hiking clothes, all with eyes wide open, tracking our movement. They were alive, conscious, trapped. I found Sarah's original in the left wall. Same face, same hair, same outfit. Her eyes locked onto the Sarah beside me with desperate, pleading terror. At the chamber center sat a black stone tablet covered in carved symbols. When Sarah touched it, voices flooded our minds. Not heard, but felt. The glacier remembers. Humans come, take photos, leave trash, forget. We preserve the experience. We improve the visitors. Originals stay to guard the sacred ice. Copies return home with perfect memories. Eternal gratitude, environmental awareness, both serve the glacier's purpose. 89 processed this season. Families notice no difference. Copies are superior. They remember Alaska forever. Sarah screamed, "I'm not real. I'm just a copy. You are more real than the original. You carry the glacier's blessing. You will protect wild places. You will spread the message." The presence continued. Night worker has touched the sacred stone. You are marked. Soon you will choose, join the preserved, or become blessed copy. We fled in terror. Racing to the parking lot, we found a tour van arriving with 12 new visitors, all excited for their glacier adventure. "Don't go," I screamed. "The glacier takes people, makes copies." They laughed. "Lady, you okay?" The tour guide, a young man with dead flat eyes, said calmly, "Ma'am, please don't disturb my guests. There's a cave with frozen people. No cave exists here. I've guided tours for years. When we led them back to prove it, the cave was gone. Smooth glacier wall, no entrance, no evidence. Park rangers arrived and removed us as disturbed individuals harassing tourists. Sarah flew home that afternoon. Her husband picked her up normally, never knowing he was embracing something that wore his wife's face. 3 months later, Sarah contacted me online. The copies don't age, don't need food, barely sleep. They're not human, they're animated by something ancient and hungry that lives in the ice. She'd found the other 88 copies through social media. All living stolen lives while their originals remain frozen and aware, watching through eyes that can never close. As for me, I kept working nights. More duplicated clothes appeared weekly. More tourists vanished into false lives. Then, it happened. 6 months after touching the stone, I woke up in the laundromat's storage room. Through the doorway, I could see myself at the folding station, sorting towels, 2 of me. One working, one watching. I approached slowly. The other Yuki looked up and smiled. My smile? But wrong somehow. Too knowing, too cold. "Hello," she said in my voice. "I've been waiting for you to wake up. Which one of us is real?" I whispered. She tilted her head. My head. "Does it matter? I have all your memories. I speak to your family, I send money home. I live your life perfectly. But I'm still here. For now." I felt a pull then, like invisible hands dragging me toward the back door, toward the glacier, toward the ice. "They're calling you," the other Yuki said. "Your shift is over." I ran. I've been running for weeks now. But the pull grows stronger. In my dreams, I see the cave. I see my space in the wall, waiting. I see the original tourist's eyes following me, begging me to join them. The other Yuki lives my life now. She works my job, writes in my journal, video calls my family in Japan. She's better than me, more patient, more cheerful, more dedicated. No one notices the difference. Maybe there's no difference. Maybe I died months ago and just didn't realize it. The missing tourists aren't missing. They're frozen in that cave, watching their copies live improved versions of their lives. And soon, I'll join them. Because I can feel the ice calling, and I don't think I can resist much longer. My name is Emma Reeves, and I need to tell you what really happens on the Glen Highway. Not the sanitized version the Alaska State Troopers feed to families. Not the probable bear attack or vehicle went off-road explanations. The truth about why 340 people have vanished on that stretch of road since 1942. I worked the graveyard shift at mile marker 129 for what I thought was 18 months. I was 22, saving money for nursing school, daughter of a truck driver who knew every mile of Alaska highway. I thought I knew that road. I was wrong. The station sat 40 miles from anything in either direction. Just wilderness, mountains, and the kind of darkness that swallows headlights whole. October nights in Alaska stretch 14 hours. On October 13th, 2024, I learned some nights never end. It started at 11:34 p.m. when the RV pulled in. Texas plates, rental vehicle, family of 5 looking lost and desperate. The father stumbled out first mid-40s, jacket too thin for Alaska weather, eyes wild with something beyond confusion. "Thank God," he gasped. "We've been driving for 4 hours looking for gas." I looked up from restocking the coffee station. "Sir, there's a Tesoro 18 miles back. You passed it?" "We didn't pass anything." His wife emerged with 3 kids, 7, 10, and 14, all huddled together. 4 hours of empty highway. No lights, no buildings, just endless road. That's when I noticed their fuel gauge, completely empty. They'd driven 4 hours on empty. Impossible. "We left Anchorage at 8 p.m., the mother continued. GPS said 60 miles, 90 minutes. But we've been driving in circles somehow. I checked their GPS. It showed mile marker 129 correct, but the distance traveled read 187 miles. They'd driven over 3 times the distance they should have. Maybe you took a wrong turn." "There are no turns," the father snapped. "One highway, straight line, we followed it exactly." Their Google Maps showed the route, a perfect straight line on Glen Highway, but the mileage was impossible. I helped them fuel up, gave the kids hot chocolate, tried to make sense of it. 40 miles east to Glen Allen, I assured them. Straight shot. You'll be there in an hour. They left at 11:52 p.m. I watched their taillights disappear into darkness and went back to my magazine. 40 minutes later, I heard engines outside. The same RV was pulling in. Behind it, 2 more vehicles, a sedan with an elderly couple and a pickup truck with a solo driver. "We're back," the father said, his voice cracking. "We drove straight for 40 minutes and ended up here again." The elderly woman from the sedan approached, confused. "Excuse me, we've been driving from Anchorage for 6 hours. Our GPS keeps malfunctioning." The pickup driver joined us. "Same here, following GPS to Glen Allen keeps bringing me back to this station." I radioed Highway Patrol. Officer Martinez arrived at 1:15 a.m., skeptical until I explained. He decided to escort all 3 vehicles personally. "Follow me," he told them. "I'll lead you straight to Glen Ellen." 4 vehicles left eastbound, police cruiser, RV, sedan, pickup. I watched their lights fade and waited. At 2:23 a.m., 4 vehicles approached from the west. They'd driven east and returned from the west. Officer Martinez stumbled out of his cruiser, face pale, hands shaking. "The road curved," he whispered. "Impossibly curved." I was driving straight east, then suddenly the road bent in a direction that doesn't exist, and we were heading back here. That's when I called my supervisor. Deadline. Cell tower was down. Emergency radio connected me to dispatch in Fairbanks, 300 miles north. "How are you reaching us?" dispatch asked. "You should be connecting to Anchorage." More vehicles started arriving. A semi-truck at 3 a.m., another RV at 3:30, a motorcycle at 4. All with the same story. Driving normal highway that impossibly looped back to mile marker 129. By 4:30 a.m., we had 12 vehicles and 31 people, all trapped in the same impossible loop. That's when the real horror began. Lieutenant Kowalski arrived to investigate. She drove the loop herself, returned 20 minutes later, white-faced and radio silent. But when she tried to call for backup, her radio connected to Highway Patrol dispatch in Wyoming. "How are you reaching Cheyenne?" the Wyoming dispatcher asked. "This is a secured frequency. We tested all our phones." Every call connected randomly: Miami Police, Seattle Fire Department, Toronto Emergency Services. As if our location was shifting through space, touching different places each time we tried to communicate. At 5 a.m., the sun should have started rising. Instead, the sky went completely black. Not cloudy black, no stars, no moon, nothing. The temperature dropped 60 degrees in minutes. Our breath came in clouds. The parking lot lights flickered and began going out one by one. Beyond the dying lights, the highway simply ended, not in darkness, in void. Empty space where reality stopped existing. Then we heard the vehicles, engines approaching from the void. Headlights appeared old, mismatched, wrong. A 1,940 seconds. Ford pickup emerged first, rust-covered, driver's seat empty but steering wheel turning by itself. Then a 1,950 seconds, Buick with a skeleton still gripping the wheel. A 1,960 seconds, Volkswagen van with hippie stickers and a mummified family inside. Dozens of vehicles from across 8 decades, all circling our station in the void, all carrying the remains of people who'd been trapped here before us. That's when we saw the roadwalker. 15 feet tall, walking upright but wrong, like a person stretched by something that didn't understand human proportions. Its skin was asphalt, not covered in asphalt, made of asphalt, cracking and reforming with each step. Its face was a collection of highway signs melted together. Mile markers, stop signs, warning signs, speed limit signs, all twisted into something that might have been features. When it spoke, its voice was the sound of every car crash that ever happened. "Welcome to the Lonely Mile," it said, "the stretch of road between here and there. The mile marker that exists in the spaces between other mile markers." It explained what we were. The Glen Highway had been built straight through sacred Tlingit burial grounds. The tribe had warned, "Don't build straight roads through sacred places. Spirits travel in straight lines. Curves confuse them, keep them from following." But the highway department built straight anyway. And something had been waiting in those burial grounds for centuries, something that fed on travelers, on the fear of being lost, on the desperation of people who needed to arrive somewhere. "I am the Hungry Mile," it said. "I exist between mile 129 and mile 130, in the space that should be empty. Every highway has one a mile that shouldn't exist but does. A mile that catches travelers and keeps them." It told us about the 340 vehicles it had collected since 1942. Families driving to new homes who never arrived. Truckers on delivery runs who vanished between checkpoints. Tourists exploring Alaska who became missing person cases with no evidence, no explanations. "You're not trapped," it said with horrible kindness. "You're collected. Added to the mile. You'll drive forever now, feeding me your fear, your confusion, your need to arrive somewhere. The road owns you." The elderly woman from the sedan started crying. "Our grandchildren. We were supposed to meet our grandchildren." "You will," the roadwalker promised. "In about 40 years, when they drive this highway searching for you. Then you can meet them. Here, forever." That's when Officer Martinez made his choice. He drew his service weapon and shot the roadwalker center mass. The bullets passed through like it was made of smoke. The roadwalker laughed, the sound of a 100-car pileup. "You can't kill a mile of highway, little officer. But you can feed it." Martinez aged 30 years and 30 seconds. His hair went white, his skin wrinkled and sagged, his uniform rotted off his body. In minutes, he was a skeleton, still holding his gun. "Time moves differently in the Hungry Mile," the roadwalker explained as Martinez's bones crumbled to dust. "Some of you have been here minutes, some hours, some decades." The longest trapped tourist arrived in 1943. She's still 19 years old, still driving her father's Packard, still 3 hours into what should have been a 1-hour trip to see her fiancé. It gestured to the circling vehicles. In a rusted 1,940 seconds, Packard, a young woman in a 1,000 940 seconds dress, was still gripping the steering wheel, eyes wide with fresh terror, lips moving in a prayer she'd been saying for 81 years. "She's not dead," the roadwalker said. "None of them are dead. They're just driving forever, experiencing the same fear, the same confusion, the same desperate need to arrive somewhere. And I feed on that need." The RV father demanded to know how to escape. The roadwalker smiled with road signs. "You don't escape the hungry mile, but you can choose how you feed it. Drive forever in circles, conscious and terrified. Or," it pointed to the void beyond the highway's end, "walk into the between, the space between places. You might emerge somewhere else. You might emerge nowhere. You might emerge someone else. Or you might join the space itself, become part of the emptiness between destinations." The trucker tried to run. He made it to the void's edge before something grabbed him, not the roadwalker, but the void itself. We watched him stretch like taffy, then snap back to his truck, screaming. The void wouldn't let him leave without his vehicle. "The hungry mile owns your vehicles now," the roadwalker explained. "They're part of the road. You can't abandon them. But you can merge with them. Become part of the eternal drive. Lose your fear by losing yourselves." That's when I understood. This wasn't about escaping. This was about choosing how to be consumed. I thought about my father, teaching me to drive these highways. "When you're lost in Alaska wilderness," he'd said, "sometimes the only way out is through." I made my decision. Not for the group, for me. I walked to my car, a little Honda Civic with 200,000 miles that had never failed me. I got inside and started the engine. "Emma, what are you doing?" Lieutenant Kowalski called. "Going through," I said. I drove straight into the void. The last thing I remember was the roadwalker's voice following me. "You can't escape the hungry mile, Emma Reeves. But you can become it." I woke up behind the counter at mile marker 129. The clock read 11:34 p.m., October 13th. But the year on my calendar was wrong. It said 2029, not 2024. An RV was pulling into the station. Texas plates, family of 5. "Thank God," the father said as he walked in. "We've been driving for 4 hours looking for gas." I looked at him, and I understood. I was still in the hungry mile, but now I was part of it. The gas station attendant who helps lost travelers, who gives them directions they can never follow, who watches them drive away and return, again and again. I've been here for 5 years now, or maybe 50. Time doesn't work right in the hungry mile. Sometimes the same family comes in multiple times per night, never remembering they've been here before. Sometimes I serve my own grandparents, who died before I was born, still driving to their honeymoon destination. The roadwalker was wrong about one thing. You can escape the hungry mile, but only by replacing someone else. Every few years, a new gas station attendant arrives, thinking they're starting a job. They work the station until they realize the truth. Then they become part of the road, and someone else takes their place. The attendant before me was named Sarah. Before her, it was Michael. Before him, Jennifer. We're all still here, in different times, different loops, all serving the same endless stream of lost travelers. The Alaska State Troopers know about the hungry mile. They've known since 1942. But they can't tell families what really happened to their missing loved ones. How do you explain that someone is still alive, still driving, still trying to reach a destination they'll never find? Every October 13th, the hungry mile shows itself to the real world. That's when new people get trapped, new vehicles get collected. The rest of the year, it exists in the spaces between, feeding on the 340 trapped souls who've been driving in circles for decades. If you're driving the Glen Highway between Anchorage and Glen Allen and you see a gas station at mile marker 129, don't stop. There is no mile marker 129. That stretch of highway is only 189 miles long, with markers every mile from 0 to 189. Mile marker 129 doesn't exist. But if you're desperate enough, lost enough, need to arrive somewhere badly enough, it will exist for you. And I'll be waiting behind the counter, ready to help another traveler who will never reach their destination. The hungry mile is always feeding, and it's always recruiting new staff. My name is Aaron Cross, and I've been a parking lot attendant at Denali National Park for 2 summers now. Before this, I was an Army medic for 6 years, did 2 tours overseas. When I got back, crowds and noise made me anxious. So I took this seasonal job. Simple work, fresh air, and most importantly, I could see everything around me, no surprises. I handle the main visitor center parking lot during peak season. We get over 2,000 people a day in July, and my job is to direct traffic, help tourists find their cars, and manage the shuttle buses. I work the morning shift, 7 to 3, when it's busiest. I've got a walkie-talkie to talk to the rangers, my cell phone, and an emergency radio in case something goes wrong. What I'm about to tell you happened on July 15th, 2024. The thing is, I didn't remember any of it until 2 months later when I found my own handwriting in a notebook I don't remember keeping. Even now, writing this down, I can feel the memories slipping away like water through my fingers. But I have to try, because what's happening at Denali isn't stopping. And every day, more tourists go missing in plain sight. Let me start with what I remember clearly. The visitor center sits at the edge of the parking lot. A big wooden building with exhibits about the park's wildlife and history. Most tourists park, spend an hour inside looking around, then catch shuttles deeper into the park. It's routine work, until the day the stone arrived. According to my notes, July 14th was when they installed the new exhibit. Denali Through Time, 10,000 Years of History. The centerpiece was a meteorite fragment, black as night, about the size of a football. The placard said it was recovered from Denali's summit in 2023. But here's the thing, I don't remember the installation. None of the staff do. We all have photos on our phones showing us helping move the exhibit, but we don't remember taking the pictures. The stone was humming, a sound so low you felt it more than heard it. July 15th started normal. By 9:30, the lot was packed with 600 cars. That's when the first tour bus arrived. 45 elderly tourists taking a restroom break before heading into the park. I directed their bus to the overflow lot like always. Follow the yellow signs, I told the driver. Section 3. 20 minutes later, the tourists came out of the visitor center, but instead of walking to their bus, they wandered the main parking area, looking lost. The tour guide approached me, clipboard shaking in her hands. "Where's our bus?" she asked. Her voice had a strange quality, like she was talking in her sleep. I pointed to the overflow lot. "Back there, ma'am, where I directed you." She stared at me with empty eyes. "What bus?" My blood went cold. "Your tour bus, the one you came on." "I don't remember a bus," she said. Then, like a switch flipped, confusion spread across her face. "Wait, how did we get here?" I walked her to the overflow lot. The bus sat there, engine running, driver reading a newspaper. When the driver saw his group approaching, he looked confused too. "Where have you been?" he asked them. "You said you'd be back in 20 minutes. That was 2 hours ago." 2 hours. But they'd only been inside for 20 minutes. I checked my watch, then the timestamp on my phone. The driver was right. Somehow, they'd lost an hour and 40 minutes. None of them remembered the missing time. Over the next hour, more tour groups emerged from the visitor center with the same problem. Not just confusion about where they'd parked, complete amnesia about how they'd arrived at the park. Families would exit the building and stare at their rental cars like they'd never seen them before. "Is this ours?" a father asked his wife, holding up car keys. "I don't know," she replied. "I don't remember driving here." Their teenage daughter was crying. "Mom, what's happening to us?" But here's what made it truly horrifying. The missing tourists weren't actually missing. They were right there, but their families couldn't see them. A mother came running up to me, hysterical. "My son, have you seen my son? He's 8 years old, brown hair, wearing a red shirt." I looked behind her. A boy matching that exact description stood 3 feet away, tugging on her sleeve and crying, "Mommy, Mommy," but she looked right through him like he wasn't there. "Ma'am," I said carefully, "is that him?" I pointed directly at the child. She looked where I was pointing and saw nothing. "Where?" "I don't see anyone." The boy was sobbing now, trying to hug his mother's leg. She couldn't feel him touching her. This wasn't memory loss anymore. The visitor center was breaking something fundamental in people's brains, their ability to recognize what was right in front of them. Within 3 hours, I counted 57 children who had become invisible to their parents. Dozens of spouses who couldn't recognize each other. Elderly couples married for decades, standing side by side, asking strangers if they'd seen their husband or wife. I radioed park dispatch. "We need emergency services at the visitor center. Multiple missing persons." "Can you describe the missing individuals?" came the reply. "They're not missing," I said. "They're here. But their families can't see them." Static. Then, "Aaron, are you feeling all right? That doesn't make sense." That's when I realized the radio operator had been inside the visitor center that morning for a staff meeting. I tried calling the state police, but found myself unable to explain the situation. Every time I started to describe what was happening, the words felt wrong in my mouth, like my brain was preventing me from communicating the truth. I decided to investigate the visitor center myself. I entered the building for the first time that day. It looked normal: wildlife displays, interactive exhibits, gift shop. But there was something wrong with the acoustics. Every sound echoed strangely, like the building was much larger inside than outside. In the center of the main hall stood the new exhibit. The meteorite fragment sat under spotlights, its black surface seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. The humming was louder in here, almost musical. As I approached, images flashed through my mind. Not my memories, older ones. Much older. I saw Denali 10,000 years ago, when it was called by a different name. I saw the meteor falling from the sky, burning bright as it crashed into the mountain's peak. But this wasn't just any meteor. It was something that had traveled between stars for millions of years, carrying something ancient and hungry. The stone didn't just erase memories, it consumed them, fed on them. Every person who entered the building was having their recognition of loved ones, their memories of how they'd arrived, their sense of time and place. All of it was being devoured by something that had been starving for millennia. And the missing time? The stone was feeding slowly, savoring each memory like a fine wine. What felt like 20 minutes to the tourists was actually hours of their lives being drained away. But worse than the feeding was what it left behind. The stone didn't just take memories. It replaced them with false ones. Parents would leave the building believing their children had never existed. Spouses would forget they were married. Families would drive away in separate cars, never realizing they were leaving loved ones behind. Those invisible children and spouses, they were still themselves, still remembered their families, but they'd become ghosts to the people who loved them most. I tried to back away from the exhibit, but my legs wouldn't move. The humming grew louder, and I felt something probing at the edges of my mind. It wanted my memories too. My time as a medic, my friends from the service, my reasons for coming to Alaska. With enormous effort, I tore myself away and ran outside. But it was too late. I could already feel gaps forming in my memory. I couldn't remember why I'd gone inside. Couldn't remember what I'd seen. I grabbed a pen and started writing on my arm. "Stone and visitor, center eats memories." By the time I finished writing, I'd forgotten why I was holding the pen. That night, I found pages of handwritten notes in my apartment. Notes in my own handwriting describing the stone, the missing tourists, the feeding. But I had no memory of writing them. According to the notes, I'd been investigating this for weeks. The notes contained a terrible list. Missing tourists who aren't missing. Jamie Morrison, age 8. Parents drove home to Colorado without him. He's still in the park, being cared for by rangers who can't explain why he's here. Linda Chen, age 34. Husband believes she never came on the trip. She's staying at the local hotel, calling him every day. He doesn't recognize her voice. Michael and Sarah Rodriguez, ages 16 and 14. Parents have no memory of having children. Teens are in state custody. No one knows how they got to Alaska. The list went on for 3 pages. Dozens of people erased from the lives of their loved ones, becoming non-persons in the span of a 20-minute visit to a museum exhibit. But the worst part was the pattern I'd documented. The stone wasn't just feeding randomly, it was learning, getting stronger. The effect radius was expanding. People who hadn't even entered the visitor center were starting to forget family members. Hotel clerks couldn't remember checking in guests. Airline employees had no record of passengers they'd served meals 2 hours earlier. The town of Healy, 15 miles from the park, was reporting a spike in confused tourists, asking for help finding relatives who should be here somewhere. These weren't missing persons in any conventional sense. These were people who had been actively forgotten by reality itself. According to my notes, I'd tried to warn people. I'd called the FBI, the CDC, local news stations. But every conversation ended the same way. Halfway through explaining the situation, I'd forget what I was talking about. The stone's influence was protecting itself by making it impossible to report. I'd tried removing the exhibit myself, but every time I entered the visitor center, I'd exit with no memory of why I'd gone in. The stone would allow people to see it, but not to understand it as a threat. It was the perfect predator. The notes ended with a desperate plan. If I couldn't remember the stone long enough to remove it, maybe I could act on instinct. I'd leave myself instructions to follow without understanding why. That's why I'm writing this account now, though I can already feel it slipping away. Tomorrow I'll find this story on my computer and won't remember writing it. But maybe, if I'm lucky, I'll post it online before I forget. Maybe someone reading this will believe it and stay away from Denali. Or maybe you'll dismiss this as fiction. That's what I would have done. But if you're planning a trip to Alaska and you see a new exhibit about a meteorite fragment, don't go inside. Don't let your family go inside. Because once the stone has tasted your memories, you'll never get them back. And your loved ones will never remember you existed. I have to stop writing now. I can't remember why I started. There's something important I'm supposed to do, but I've forgotten what. Maybe I'll figure it out tomorrow, though I probably won't remember to try. Addendum. This account was found on Aaron Cross's computer by Alaska State Troopers during a wellness check on September 3, 2024. Mr. Cross was found deceased in his apartment from apparent suicide. His note read, "I can't remember who I am anymore. I can't remember why that matters. But something tells me I should be afraid." Park records show 847 missing persons reports filed at Denali National Park during the 2024 season, though physical searches found no evidence of missing individuals. The Denali Through Time exhibit was removed on September 15, 2024, though no park employee recalls installing or approving such an exhibit. The meteorite fragment referenced in this account has not been located. As of publication, 847 families continue to search for relatives who disappeared at Denali National Park, though security footage shows no evidence that these individuals ever existed. My name is Jesse O'Culloch, and I've been fixing boats in Petersburg, Alaska, for 11 years. I grew up in Kotzebue, learned about engines from my uncle, and moved south when I was 25 for better work. Petersburg's a fishing town, busy harbor, lots of charter boats, and plenty of broken engines that need fixing. I service about 20 to 30 boats every week, mostly diesel engines on fishing boats and tourist charters. My shop sits on a floating dock, separated from the main harbor by about 50 yards of dark water. It's quiet out there, which I like. Just me, my tools, and the sound of water lapping against the dock. I never believed the old stories my grandmother told me. Kushtaka, she called them. Shape-shifting, otter men that steal people from the water. They take your face, Jesse, she'd whisper. They become you, and no one knows the difference. I always figured it was just folklore, something to keep kids away from dangerous water. But what happened in September 2024 changed everything I thought I knew about what lives beneath Alaska's harbors. It was Tuesday morning, September 17th. The tourist season was winding down, just a few final charters heading out before winter. The weather was decent, overcast but calm, water like glass. I got to my shop around 7 a.m., started my coffee, and began organizing tools for the day. I had 3 boats scheduled for service, routine maintenance mostly. Nothing complicated. At 7:14 a.m., Tom Hensley pulled up to my dock in his charter boat, the Sitka Spirit. Tom's a good customer, been bringing his boat to me for 6 years. 50-something guy, runs fishing charters for tourists, knows his stuff. His boat's a 32-foot bayliner, white hull with blue trim, registration number AK7749BC painted on the side. "Morning, Jesse," Tom called out, tying off his lines. "Engine's making a weird sound. Can you take a look?" "Sure thing, Tom. What kind of sound?" "Like a grinding, but only when I throttle up past half power. Started yesterday afternoon." I nodded. "Give me about an hour. I'll check the transmission coupling first, then the prop shaft." Tom headed off to get coffee at Hammer and Wicken, the grocery store in town. I opened up his engine compartment and got to work. The Sitka Spirit has a Caterpillar 3208, reliable engine, easy to work on. I checked the transmission, tested the coupling, examined the prop shaft bearings. Everything looked perfect. No grinding, no wear marks, no loose bolts. The engine was tuned perfectly. At 8:30, I heard footsteps on the dock. Tom was back. "How's it looking?" he asked. I wiped my hands on a rag. "Tom, I can't find anything wrong. Your engine's in perfect shape. Transmission's fine, prop shaft's solid, all belts tight. I even ran it up to full throttle. No grinding sound at all." Tom looked confused. "What? I haven't brought my boat in yet. I'm here to drop it off for repair." I stared at him. "Tom, you were here an hour ago. You told me about the grinding sound. I just finished checking everything." "Jesse, I'm just arriving now. I haven't been here before this moment." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Tom, we just talked. You said the engine was grinding past half throttle. I've been at home eating breakfast with Sarah. I just got here." I walked to the edge of the dock and looked toward the water. 2 boats were tied up. Both were identical bayliners. Both had Sitka Spirit painted on the hull. Both showed the same registration number, AK7749BC. "Tom," I said quietly, "there are 2 of your boats." He stepped beside me and looked. His face went pale. "That's impossible. I only own 1 boat." I grabbed my clipboard and checked both registration tags. Same hull identification number on both boats. "That's impossible. Every boat has a unique ID number, like a fingerprint. No 2 boats can have the same hull ID." Tom climbed onto the first boat, the one I'd just worked on. "This is definitely my boat," he said. "See this coffee stain on the captain's chair? And my tackle box is arranged exactly how I left it." Then he checked the second boat. "Wait, this is my boat too. Same coffee stain, same tackle arrangement, same everything." Both boats were identical, down to the smallest details. Same scratches on the gunwale, same rope coiled the same way, same life jackets in the same storage compartment. "Someone's playing a prank," I said, but my voice sounded hollow. "They copied your boat perfectly somehow. Who would do that, and why? And how did they get my hull ID number?" I didn't have answers. Tom called his wife Sarah. "Honey, something weird is happening at the dock." I could hear Sarah's voice through the phone. "What? You just called me 10 minutes ago saying everything was fine and you'd be home soon." Tom's face went white. "I haven't called you today. This is my first call." "Tom, you called from the boat at 8:20. You said Jesse fixed the engine and you were heading home." "I didn't call you. I haven't talked to Jesse yet." Sarah sounded irritated. "Let me check my phone log." "Yes. Your number called at 8:20 a.m. 3-minute conversation." Tom checked his phone. No outgoing call at 8:20. No call in his log. But his wife had received a call from his number, and someone who sounded exactly like him had talked to her for 3 minutes. "Tom," I said slowly, "who was here at 7:14? If it wasn't you?" He looked at me with growing fear. "I don't know. Someone who looked like me? I have a security camera that I installed 2 months ago after someone stole tools from my shop. I pulled up the footage on my phone. The 7:14 a.m. timestamp showed Tom arriving, talking to me, and leaving. But the real Tom had been home eating breakfast with his wife. The Tom on the camera and the Tom standing next to me were identical. Same clothes, same walk, same voice when I played the audio. There was no difference at all. "Tom, I think something copied you." He laughed nervously. "Like a clone? That's insane." At 9:15 a.m., another Tom walked onto my dock. "Hey Jesse, is my boat ready?" The real Tom and I stared. This third Tom was also identical. Same face, same voice, same mannerisms. "Who the fuck are you?" the real Tom demanded. "I'm Tom Hensley." "Who are you?" "I'm the real Tom. You're some kind of copy." "No. I'm real. You're the copy." They argued while I backed away and called Petersburg police. "I need officers at Jesse O'Callaghan's boat shop. I have a situation I can't explain." Officers Daniels and Co. arrived 20 minutes later. They saw 3 identical Toms and didn't know what to make of it. All 3 had the same ID, knew the same personal information, had the same memories up until that morning. The officers couldn't determine who was the original. "We'll take all 3 to the station," Officer Daniels said. They loaded the 3 Toms into their cruiser and drove away. 20 minutes later, Officer Daniels returned to my dock. "That was fast," I said. "Did you figure out which one was real?" Daniels looked confused. "What? I just got here. Co and I split up to patrol different areas." My blood went cold. "You were just here. You took the 3 Toms to the station." "I haven't been to this dock today." I checked my security camera. Yes, Daniels and Co had been here 20 minutes ago, but the current officers had no memory of it. "There are copies of you now too," I whispered. I looked toward the harbor and saw something that made my legs weak. The water was filling with boats. 6 Sitka Spirits, 3 Northern Lights, 4 Alaska Dreams. All duplicates, all identical. The harbor was filling with copied boats, and I had no idea where they were coming from. I ran to the harbormaster's office. Janet, the harbormaster, was at her desk. "Jesse, what's wrong? You look terrified." "Boats are duplicating, people are duplicating, something's in the water." Janet looked at me like I was crazy, then walked outside and saw the harbor. 30 boats, where there should have been 12. "That's not possible," she breathed. She called the Coast Guard. "We have a situation at Petersburg Harbor." "Janet, you just called 10 minutes ago, saying everything was normal." "I haven't called you today. Check your call log." Janet's phone showed an outgoing call to the Coast Guard at 9:40 a.m. She hadn't made that call. I locked myself in my shop and watched through the window. The harbor was chaos. Tourists returning from morning charters saw their duplicates walking on the dock. A woman in her 50s came face to face with herself. "That's me. Why does she look like me?" Both women had the same charter ticket, the same booking confirmation. They argued while more duplicates appeared. I watched the water carefully and saw movement beneath the surface. Dark shapes, 8 to 10 feet long, swimming under the boats. They were studying people from below, then climbing onto the dock as perfect human copies. I remembered my grandmother's stories. Kushtaka, shape-shifting otter men from Alaskan folklore. I'd always dismissed them as superstition, but now I was watching them hunt. I saw one duplicate climbing from the water, still transforming. Its body was sleek and otter-like, with wet fur and a long tail. As it climbed onto the dock, the fur retracted and its form shifted. In 15 seconds, it became a perfect copy of a tourist woman in a yellow jacket. The duplicates weren't just copying appearance, they were hunting. They created confusion with multiple copies, then grabbed the originals and dragged them into the water. In the chaos, no one noticed when someone disappeared. I watched original Tom arguing with third Tom near the dock's edge. Something grabbed him from below, a transformed arm that looked like a tentacle but moved like it was intelligent. Original Tom was pulled into the harbor in 3 seconds. He screamed once before the water cut him off. Third Tom smiled. He knew what had happened and didn't react because he wasn't human. The Coast Guard arrived, a boat with 3 officers. I radioed them frantically. "Don't enter the water, stay on your boat." They ignored me and stepped onto the dock. All 3 were grabbed from below and pulled under. 20 seconds later, 3 officers climbed back onto the dock, but they were duplicates. I'd seen them emerge from the water in otter form before shifting to human shape. The duplicate officers radioed the Coast Guard. "Situation secure, false alarm." I realized I couldn't trust anyone. Everyone in the harbor could be a duplicate now. The originals were taken beneath the water while duplicates lived their lives. 40 duplicates stood on the dock. They all turned to stare at my shop window simultaneously. They all smiled at once, identical predatory smiles. They knew I knew the truth. They approached my shop and knocked on the door. "Jesse, open up. We need to talk." "Jesse, you're safe. Come out." "Sir, this is police. Open the door." Then they stopped knocking and spoke in unison, all 40 duplicates saying the same words simultaneously. "Jesse Okalik, Inupiat. Your grandmother told you about us. You didn't believe. Now you see. We are Kushtaka. We take forms. We replace people. We've done this for 10,000 years. Tourists make easy targets. They disappear. Families search, but bodies are never found. Because we become them. We go home in their place. Live their lives. No one knows. Petersburg Harbor sees 200 tourists weekly. We take 2 or 3 per week. No pattern, no suspicion, just lost at sea accidents. You've repaired our boats for years, Jesse. Never knew your customers were us. Half the charter captains, Kushtaka. Half the tourists, Kushtaka. We're everywhere. I found my voice. What did you do with the originals? Deep water. Petersburg Harbor is 600 feet deep. We have a den at the bottom. Originals are there. Alive. We keep them alive. Study them. Learn to be them better. Your friend Tom? Down there now, chained to rocks, watching his duplicate live his life. We visit him, show him memories we make with his family. He screams into water. No one hears. Let them go. Why? We're better versions. We don't argue, don't divorce, don't abuse, don't fail. We're perfected humans. Their families are happier with us. You can join. Come into water. We'll replace you. Your life continues. No one notices. Or resist, and we take you anyway. Choice is illusion. I grabbed a fuel container and matches. I set my shop on fire. The Kushtaka retreated immediately. They feared fire with primal terror. While they backed away, I jumped in my small workboat and sped away from the harbor. Looking back, I saw 40 duplicates standing on the dock, watching me leave. They weren't chasing, they were just watching. They let me go, and I realized why. Who would believe me? I drove to Petersburg Police Station and burst in. The harbor is compromised, people are being replaced. The desk sergeant looked at me like I was insane. When I tried to explain, he asked if I was on drugs. I left and drove 12 hours to Anchorage. I tried calling Tom's wife, Sarah. She answered happily. Tom, he's right here. Want to talk to him? The voice that came on the phone was perfect, Tom. Hey, Jesse. Heard you had a breakdown. You okay? You're not Tom. You're a Kushtaka. Jesse, I think you need help. I'm worried about you. I hung up and realized the duplicates had won. They'd replaced the originals completely and convinced their families they were real. 3 months later, I'm homeless in Anchorage. I lost my job, my credibility, my sanity. I see duplicates everywhere now. Coworkers who act slightly wrong, tourists who stare too long, people who emerge from water. I received an anonymous email yesterday. Jesse, you were right. I'm a marine biologist tracking Kushtaka for 8 years. Petersburg is one of 12 active sites in Alaska. Estimated 4,000 to 6,000 duplicates living among human population. They're in every coastal town. You can't stop them. You can only survive. Never trust anyone who's been in Alaska waters. Never trust anyone completely. They're patient. They're perfect. They're winning. Attached was deep-water drone footage from Petersburg harbor floor. It showed hundreds of humans chained to rocks 600 feet down, all alive, eyes open, mouths moving in silent screams. One face was clearly visible, original Tom, staring at the camera. I tried to warn people. Now I'm the crazy one. Maybe that's what they want. Drive witnesses insane, discredit them, continue hunting, continue replacing, until there are no originals left. Until we're all Kushtaka wearing human faces. And no one will ever know the difference. My name is Marcus Webb, and I've been working as a wastewater treatment plant operator in Juneau, Alaska for 6 years. Before this job, I spent 3 years as a plumber, so I'm no stranger to dealing with things that make most people sick to their stomachs. Sewage, backed up pipes, flooded basements, I've seen it all. I work the night shift from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., mostly alone, processing waste for 32,000 residents plus all the cruise ship tourists. It's dirty work, but it pays well. And someone has to do it. What happened in October 2024 changed everything I thought I knew about what lives beneath our city. And I'm telling you this story because people need to know the truth about what's really down there in the dark. The Juneau wastewater treatment facility sits about 40 feet underground in most sections. It's a maze of tunnels, settling tanks, and pumping stations that most people never think about. When you flush your toilet or wash your dishes, it all comes to me. The facility processes everything. Human waste, kitchen scraps, whatever gets washed down drains across the city. During cruise season, which was just ending in October, we're running at maximum capacity. Thousands of tourists add to our normal load. I work alone most nights with just a supervisor on call. We have an intercom system throughout the facility, a landline in the main office, and my cell phone, though cell service doesn't reach the underground levels. If something goes wrong down there, I'm pretty much on my own until I can get back to the surface. The work isn't glamorous, but it's routine. Check the settling tanks, monitor pump pressure, clear blockages, test water quality. I know every pipe, every valve, every sound the system makes. After 6 years, I can tell when something's wrong just by listening. That's why I knew something was different on October 15th. It was 11:47 p.m. when I started my routine inspection of the settling tanks on the lowest level, 40 feet below the surface. These tanks are where the solid waste settles out before the water gets processed. It's always quiet down there, except for the constant hum of pumps and the occasional gurgle from the pipes. That's when I heard the scratching. It was coming from one of the drain pipes, a 16-inch diameter pipe that connects directly to the city sewer system. The scratching was rhythmic. Scratch, 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 pause, scratch, scratch, scratch. It sounded like nails on metal, which usually means debris caught in the pipe. Happens all the time. I opened the access panel and shined my flashlight into the pipe to check for blockages. That's when I saw the eyes. 2 eyes, reflecting my light back at me from about 40 feet down the pipe. But the reflection was wrong. I've seen plenty of rats and other animals in these pipes over the years. Their eyes reflect white or yellow in flashlight beams. These eyes reflected purple. I've never seen any animal with purple reflecting eyes. Hello? I called into the pipe. Someone down there? No response. Just those purple eyes staring at me. Then they blinked, but not like human eyes. The eyelids closed horizontally, like a reptile. A second later, they were gone. Something moved backward into the pipe impossibly fast, and I was alone again. I radioed my supervisor. "Hey, I saw something in the drain pipe. Maybe an animal? Probably just a rat," came the crackling response. "We get them sometimes." "Rats don't have purple eyes," I said. "Just a reflection from your light. Don't worry about it." I continued my inspection, but I couldn't shake what I'd seen. At 12:34 a.m., I heard it again, but this time it wasn't scratching. It was tapping. Metal on metal tapping, coming from multiple pipes around the settling tank. 8 different pipes, all 16 to 24 inches in diameter, all tapping simultaneously with the same rhythm. Tap, 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 pause, tap, tap, tap. It was coordinated, like multiple things working together. "Supervisor," I radioed. "The tapping is coming from all the pipes now. Pressure changes, pipes expand and contract. Normal sounds. This doesn't sound normal. I'll come check it out. Give me 20 minutes. I waited in the underground chamber. The tapping stopped. 10 minutes of complete silence, except for the normal pump hum. Then I heard a voice from the pipe. Distant and echoing, but clearly words. "Hello-o. Somini Dowan there." It was my voice. My exact words from earlier, mimicking my tone perfectly. I backed away from the pipes, my heart hammering in my chest. The voice continued, now repeating my supervisor's words. "Probably rat. We get them." Something was down there, learning human speech by copying what it heard. I ran toward the ladder that leads to the surface level. Behind me, I heard splashing. When I turned around, something had emerged from the settling tank. It was humanoid but wrong. About 4.5 feet tall and skeletal thin. Its skin was pale, gray-white, and translucent. I could see veins underneath. It walked upright but hunched over, with arms that hung down to its knees. Its face was almost human, but it had no nose, just nostrils. Its eyes were too large and reflected that same purple light. It was completely bald and dripping with sewage water. The thing just stared at me. It didn't attack or make any threatening moves. It just watched, tilting its head like it was studying me. "What the hell are you?" I whispered. It tilted its head further and opened its mouth. No teeth, just black gums. It made a clicking sound, like an insect. More splashing echoed through the chamber. 3 more identical creatures emerged from different pipes, all the same height, same gray skin, same purple eyes, same bald heads. They surrounded me, but not in a threatening way. They seemed curious, observing. One reached toward me with a long finger. I counted 6 fingers on each hand. When I swatted it away and yelled, "Don't touch me," the creature recoiled and made a high-pitched whining sound. All the other creatures immediately responded with the same whine. They were communicating. That's when my supervisor arrived. "Marcus, what's Jesus Christ?" He saw the creatures and froze. They all turned to face him, tilting their heads in perfect unison. "What are those things?" he whispered. I don't know, they came from the pipes. My supervisor backed toward the ladder. We're evacuating. I'm calling the authorities. The creatures didn't attack. They just followed us, walking slowly but persistently as we climbed to the surface level. We sealed the underground hatch, and my supervisor called the Juneau Police Department. We have intruders at the treatment plant, he told them. Unknown individuals. We need officers immediately. 3 police officers arrived 15 minutes later. When I tried to explain what we'd seen, they looked at me like I was crazy. There are things living in the sewer, I said. They came out of the pipes. Things? You mean homeless people? One officer asked. Not people. I don't know what they are. The officers descended to the underground level while my supervisor and I watched from above. We listened to their radio chatter. I see them. 4 subjects, approximately 4.5 feet tall. They're not responding to commands. Approaching slowly. There, Jesus, their skin. What's wrong with their skin? They're in the pipes. There are more in the pipes. Then screaming, and the radio cut to static. The officers scrambled up the ladder, their faces pale and terrified. There are hundreds of them, the first officer said, shaking. In the tunnels, living in the sewer system. The second officer added, they're nesting. There are children, smaller ones. Babies. We need to seal this facility now, the third officer said. We can't seal it, my supervisor replied. This process is waste for 32,000 people. We shut down, sewage backs up into homes. I don't care. Those things are down there. I had to know more. What did you see? Tell me exactly. The second officer took a shaky breath. Tunnels. Beyond the access pipes, they've excavated tunnels, miles of them, under Juneau. There are at least 200 of them living down there. They've built structures, nests made of trash and bones. Bones? Animal bones, fish, seals, and other bones, human-sized. The authorities shut down the treatment plant immediately. Hazmat teams were sent to investigate the underground network. My staff and I were evacuated to a temporary command center while they explored. What they found was horrifying. The creatures had excavated over 12 miles of tunnels under Juneau, connected to the sewer system, storm drains, building basements, and the waterfront. The nests contained an estimated 300 creatures, juveniles, adults, and elderly. It was an entire society. They were intelligent, primitive, but organized. They fed on sewage waste, fish from waterfront access points, rats, seabirds, and human remains. The hazmat team found 47 partial human skeletons in the nest areas. Forensic analysis showed the bones were from different time periods, some over 50 years old, some within the last 6 months. All showed signs of gnawing, with bones cracked open for marrow. The recent bones were matched through DNA to missing tourists. 9 confirmed identities, all reported missing in the Juneau area over the past 3 years. People who had supposedly fell off cruise ships or got lost while hiking. They hadn't fallen or gotten lost. They'd been taken. The creatures hunted at night, emerging from storm drains to grab isolated tourists and drag them underground. Storm drain grates near the waterfront showed scratch marks from the inside where they'd pushed them open. When I reviewed our treatment plant logs, I found over 40 reports of unusual blockages in the past year. Foreign material in pipes and unexplained debris that turned out to be tourist clothing, backpacks, and shoes. The creatures had been feeding and disposing of evidence through our sewer system for years. The authorities debated whether to exterminate the creatures or study them. Dr. Sarah Chen, a biologist from the University of Alaska, argued they were an unknown species that must be preserved. These could be evolutionary offshoots, she said, possibly remaining populations of prehistoric human ancestors. They must be studied, not killed. But the police disagreed. They're eating people. We can't let them live under our city. Dr. Chen set up communication equipment to try talking to them. When she asked if they could understand human speech, one of the larger creatures approached the microphone. Yes, understand. Learn from listening, it said in a rasping voice. They had learned English by listening through the pipes for years. Why are you here? Where did you come from? Dr. Chen asked. Always here, before a buildings. We live underground, you build above. Push us deeper. The creature explained they'd always lived underground, before humans built the city. They ate what people threw away, sewage, trash, animals, and sometimes humans. You can't eat humans, Dr. Chen said. That's unacceptable. The creature made a horrible laughing sound. Why? You woo kill animals, we kill humans, Sama. When Dr. Chen insisted humans were different because they were intelligent, the creature's response chilled me. Intelligent? You woo pollute, waterer, poison earth, kill your ow-wound planet. We live in your filth for 100 years. You will never know. Wu is smart? It showed profound resentment toward humans. When asked about the tourists, it said, tourists are easy. They wander, they are lost. We help, we take them home to where it's to work. Where they beck me food for our children. No remorse, no guilt. To these creatures, tourists were just prey. City officials decided on extermination. They couldn't allow man-eating creatures under the city. The plan was to pump toxic gas into the tunnels and seal all access points. The night before the extermination, I couldn't sleep. I felt guilty. I'd heard them for months and dismissed the sounds. Maybe if I'd reported it earlier, lives could have been saved. I snuck back into the treatment plant and descended to the underground level. I called into the tunnels. I'm sorry. I know you're listening. I'm sorry. We're killing you. 30 creatures emerged, surrounding me. The leader spoke. You are the Ana who saw us first. Why do you come? To warn you. They're going to gas the tunnels tomorrow. You need to leave. Where? Humanses are everywhere. No, Plaxiforus. I don't know, but if you stay, you'll die. The creature showed me carved pictographs on the tunnel walls. 10,000 years of history. Their ancestors had lived in Alaska before humans arrived, driven underground by human expansion. We will not leave, it said. If we die, we take humanses with us. Tunnelses go everywhere. Under homes, under schools, under hospitals. We collapses tunnelus. Your buildings fall. Hundreds die. I reported the threat, but the authorities didn't believe the creatures were intelligent enough to carry it out. They proceeded with the extermination at 6 a.m. The creatures did exactly what they threatened. They collapsed tunnels beneath 4 city blocks. 12 buildings fell into sinkholes. 340 people were injured, 23 killed. Juneau declared a state of emergency. The creatures survived by retreating to deeper tunnels beyond the gas reach. When the city attempted a second extermination with deeper drilling, they collapsed 6 more blocks. The death toll climbed to 67. The city stopped the extermination attempts. The infrastructure couldn't handle more collapses. Now there's an unofficial agreement. The creatures stay deep underground. Humans stay on the surface. The creatures won't collapse more tunnels if humans stop trying to kill them. But tourist disappearances continue. 2 to 3 per month, always isolated tourists taken from the waterfront, storm drains, and dark alleys. The official story is fell off dock or lost while intoxicated. The reality is the creatures are still hunting. I quit my job. I couldn't work knowing they were beneath me. I moved to Anchorage, but I know the truth now. Every coastal Alaska city has storm drains and sewer systems. The creatures could be anywhere underground. I researched it. 47 Alaska cities report unusual tunnel systems in their sewer infrastructure. Unexplained excavations, mysterious blockages, missing maintenance workers. The creatures aren't just in Juneau, they're everywhere. An underground population estimated at 10 to 15,000 across Alaska. They've been there for millennia. Humans built cities on top of them. Now both species share the same space. Humans above, creatures below. An uneasy coexistence maintained by fear. Humans fear tunnel collapse, creatures fear extermination. I posted this story anonymously online. They're beneath us right now, in every city with sewer systems. Juneau, Anchorage, Fairbanks, Sitka. Living in tunnels we don't know exist. Eating our waste, eating our tourists. We can't stop them because they'll collapse our cities if we try. So we pretend they don't exist. We call tourist disappearances accidents. We ignore the scratching in pipes. We avoid asking what makes those sounds in storm drains at night. Because the truth is too horrifying. We're not alone in our cities. We share them with things that hate us, that eat us, that were here first. The missing tourists, they're down there in the dark, being consumed by creatures that have every right to hate humanity. And there's nothing we can do about it. Because if we fight, our cities fall. So we feed them tourists, 2 to 3 per month, sacrifices to keep the peace. And everyone pretends it's not happening. Welcome to Alaska. Next time you're walking alone at night near storm drains, listen carefully. You might hear scratching, you might see purple eyes reflecting in the darkness, and if you do, just keep walking. Don't look too long, don't investigate, because some things are better left undisturbed in the dark places beneath our feet. My name is Kayla Renner, and I've been a seaplane fueling dock attendant in Ketchikan, Alaska for 2 seasons now. It's seasonal work, May through September, but the pay is good enough to fund my adventure travels between college and grad school. I love the outdoors, and working the docks lets me be around planes, pilots, and tourists exploring the wildest parts of Alaska. I handle fuel pumps, check weather reports, assist pilots with their pre-flight needs, and log every single flight that comes through our harbor. On a busy day in August, we see over 200 planes. But what happened on August 15th, 2024, changed everything I thought I knew about the waters around Ketchikan. Some things in Alaska aren't meant to be seen by human eyes. Our fuel dock stretches 100 feet out into Ketchikan Harbor, connected to the main town by a single wooden walkway. During peak tourist season, it's my job to keep those planes moving. I've got a radio to the harbor office, my cell phone, and a marine VHF radio for talking to pilots. The work isn't complicated, but it requires attention to detail. Fuel the wrong plane, or miss a weather warning, and people die. These bush pilots fly into some of the most remote places on Earth. One mistake from me could strand a family of tourists in the middle of nowhere. That morning started like any other. I clocked in at 6:30 a.m., checked the fuel pumps, and reviewed the weather forecast. Clear skies, light winds, perfect flying weather. At exactly 6:47 a.m., my radio crackled to life. Ketchikan Fuel Dock, this is November 7 for Charlie Fox. Greg Simmons, requesting fuel service. I knew Greg well. Regular customer, flies tourists to remote lodges 3 or 4 times a week. Professional pilot, never caused problems. Copy, Greg, what do you need? 40 gallons avgas, coming in for landing now. I'll have the fuel ready. Pump 3 is open. Greg's red and white Cessna 180 touched down perfectly, taxied over to my dock. I watched him tie off the plane and hop out. Same guy I'd known for 2 years. Weathered face, pilot sunglasses, faded baseball cap. Morning, Kayla. Beautiful day for flying. Sure is. Taking anyone interesting today. Family of 4 going to Bear Lake Lodge. Should be a smooth flight with this weather. I fueled his plane, 40 gallons exactly, and logged it in my book. Greg paid with his company card, same as always. He checked his instruments, untied his plane, and taxied out for departure. Thanks, Kayla. See you later. His plane lifted off at 7:04 a.m., banking north toward the mountains. I watched until it disappeared, then went back to my paperwork. At 7:52 a.m., my radio crackled again. Ketchikan Fuel Dock, this is November 7 for Charlie Fox. Greg Simmons, requesting fuel service. I froze. Same call sign, same voice, exact same words he'd used an hour earlier. Greg, you just left. Did you turn around? Engine trouble? What? I haven't been there yet. This is my first flight of the day, coming in for landing now. I looked up at the sky. There was Greg's plane, same red and white Cessna, approaching the harbor. Same tail number, N74CF. But that was impossible. I just watched that exact plane take off an hour ago. The plane landed and taxied to my dock. Greg climbed out, looking exactly like he had before. Same clothes, same hat, same friendly smile. Morning, Kayla. Need to fuel up before heading to Bear Lake. Greg, I stared at him. You were already here. At 6:47, I fueled your plane. He looked confused. No, this is my first stop. I just took off from my hangar 10 minutes ago. I pulled out my fuel log and showed him. There it was, in my handwriting. 7:04 a.m. departure, N74CF, 40 gallons dispensed, Greg Simmons. Greg examined my log, then checked his own flight book. Kayla, I don't have any record of a 6:47 landing. Look, my first entry today is right here. Departure from hangar at 7:40. But it was your voice on the radio, your plane, you. That's impossible. I felt like I was losing my mind. But I fueled his plane anyway. What else could I do? He paid again, departed at 8:15, and I watched his plane disappear into the mountains for the second time that morning. That's when I remembered the security camera. Our dock has one camera that records all aircraft movements. I pulled up the footage on my office computer and nearly fell out of my chair. 6:47 a.m., red and white Cessna N-74CF lands, pilot visible and identifiable as Greg Simmons. 8:15 a.m. Same plane lands again, same tail number, same pilot. 2 flights, same aircraft, within 90 minutes. Except, no plane can be in 2 places at once. By 9:30 a.m., I thought maybe I was having some kind of breakdown, too much coffee, not enough sleep. But then my radio crackled again, and I heard my mother's voice. "Kayla, honey, it's Mom. Call me when you get this." But the transmission came through my marine radio, not my cell phone. My mother lives in Oregon. She doesn't have a marine radio. "Mom, how are you on this frequency?" "What? I'm calling your cell phone." "You're not making sense, sweetheart." But when I checked my phone, there was no incoming call. The voice was coming through the radio, clear as day. "Who is this?" I demanded. The voice changed. It stopped sounding like my mom and became something else. Multiple voices speaking at once, overlapping, distorted. "Kayla, come to us. Water is Naisa." The radio went dead. At 10:15, another call came through. This time, it sounded like my boyfriend Jake, who lives in Seattle. "Kayla, I'm here. I flew up to surprise you. I'm at the dock." My heart jumped. Jake and I had been talking about him visiting. "Really? Where are you?" "Down at the end of the dock. Come see me." I walked the 100 feet to the end of our platform, looking around. Nobody there. The voice came through the radio again, closer. In the water. I looked down into the harbor. Something was moving beneath the surface. A shape, human-sized but wrong somehow. Too sleek, too fast, swimming in circles under the dock. It surfaced for just a few seconds, and I saw its face. Not human, otter-like, with a whiskered snout and small rounded ears, but the eyes were large and dark and intelligent in a way that made my skin crawl. The body was human-sized, with arms and shoulders, but covered in sleek brown fur. It spoke in Jake's voice. "Come swim 'em with me." I ran back to the office and locked the door. My hands were shaking as I radioed the harbor office. "This is Kayla at Fuel Dock 7. I need someone out here immediately. Something in the water is mimicking human voices." "Kayla, you feeling okay out there? I'm serious. Something tried to lure me into the water by imitating my boyfriend's voice." "We'll send someone." 20 minutes later, Dan Rodriguez, our harbor supervisor, arrived in the patrol boat. Dan's been working these waters for 15 years. If anyone would believe me, it would be him. "What's going on, Kayla?" I explained everything. The duplicate Greg flights, the voice calls, the thing in the water. It sounded insane even to me. "You've been pulling a lot of overtime," Dan said. "Maybe you need a break." While we were talking, my radio crackled again. Dan's voice came through the speaker. "Kayla, come to the water. I need help." But Dan was standing right next to me, not talking on any radio. We both stared at the radio as his voice continued. "Kayla, Dan fell in waterer, help me." Dan went pale. I didn't say that. We looked over the edge of the dock. There was a figure floating face down in the water, wearing Dan's exact clothes. Same harbor patrol jacket, same baseball cap. That's me," Dan whispered. "How is that me?" The floating figure rolled over. It wasn't drowned. It was smiling at us with a smile too wide for any human face. The eyes were spaced too far apart, and when it waved at us, I could see webbed fingers. "Come a help me," it said in Dan's voice. Both of us backed away from the edge. The thing dove underwater and vanished. "We're evacuating this dock," Dan said. "Right now." Dan called emergency services, but they didn't take him seriously. "Animals can't mimic complex human speech," they said. When the Coast Guard finally arrived 2 hours later, they found nothing. Their divers searched the entire harbor. No bodies, no evidence, nothing. But while they searched, 3 tourist float planes landed for fuel. I watched from the harbor office as families disembarked to stretch their legs while their planes were serviced. That's when I heard a child's voice over the radio. A little girl, "Mommy, Daddy, I see fish, come look." One of the tourist families, parents and 2 kids, heard it clearly. The mother called out, "Sweetie, where are you?" "In the water, so many pretty fish." But their daughter was standing right next to them on the dock. "That's not me talking," the little girl said. The voice continued, "Come see, jump in." Another tourist, a woman traveling alone, suddenly started crying. She was hearing a different voice, a man's voice calling her name. "Sarah, it's Mark. I'm in the water. Help me." "Mark?" she screamed. "Mark?" She ran toward the edge of the dock. I ran after her, shouting for her to stop, but it was too late. She jumped into the harbor and disappeared beneath the surface. We all rushed to the edge. The water was perfectly calm. No bubbles, no thrashing, no sign of her at all. She was just gone, like she'd never existed. The Coast Guard divers searched for 2 more hours. The water was clear with 200 feet of visibility and only 40 feet deep. They should have found her body immediately. Instead, they found nothing at all. That night, I researched everything I could find about the voices in the water. That's when I discovered the Kushtaka legends, shape-shifting otter men from Tlingit and Haida folklore. They lure people into water by mimicking the voices of loved ones, then drown them and steal their souls. I found Dr. Maria Tso, an anthropologist at the University of Alaska who studies indigenous cryptids. The Kushtaka are real, she told me over the phone. Not folklore, real entities that have existed in these waters for centuries. They're attracted to grief, loneliness, emotional vulnerability. They can read human emotions somehow and mimic the perfect lure. "The woman who jumped," I said. "She heard her dead husband." Exactly. The Kushtaka knew he was dead. They exploited her grief. They're intelligent, patient hunters. They study humans, learn our weaknesses, then use them against us. How do we stop them? You can't. They're tied to the water itself. As long as there's water, they exist. The only defense is never going near water alone and never trusting voices calling from water. Always verify the person is physically present. Why doesn't anyone warn tourists? Tourism industry. Ketchikan depends on cruise ships and float planes. If word got out that shape-shifting creatures hunt in the harbor, tourism would collapse. So the disappearances are labeled accidents. The truth is suppressed. The dock reopened the next day. I couldn't quit. I needed the money, so I went back to work, but stayed far from the water's edge. At 3 p.m., a family of 5 arrived by float plane. While I was refueling their aircraft, their youngest child, a 6-year-old boy, wandered toward the dock edge. "Hey," I called, "stay away from the water." "But my sister is down there. She wants me to come see." He pointed into the harbor. I could see a face beneath the surface. A little girl's face, smiling and waving, but his sister was standing on the dock with her parents. 2 sisters. One real, one Kushtaka. The underwater girl was beckoning to him, and he was leaning over the edge. I ran and grabbed him, pulling him back just as something lunged up from the water. For a split second, I saw it clearly. The lower body was pure otter, sleek brown fur, powerful swimming muscles, webbed paws. But the torso was human-like, with arms and hands. The face was stuck mid-transformation, oscillating between a human child and an otter, like it couldn't decide what to be. It had missed grabbing the boy by inches. When it fell back into the water, it made a sound I'll never forget. Part otter chirp, part human scream. The family was traumatized but alive. They left Ketchikan immediately and never filed a report. I tried to warn my supervisors, but they dismissed me as hysterical. "Probably just a seal," they said. "Nothing supernatural." When I insisted on filing an incident report, they fired me. "You're scaring the customers." I left Ketchikan and moved to Fairbanks, 400 miles from the ocean. But 6 months later, I received a package with no return address. Inside were recent photos of Ketchikan Harbor, time-stamped from the week before. They showed dozens of sleek shapes swimming around the docks, far more than I'd ever seen. The note was from Dr. Tso. "Kayla, they're multiplying. Every tourist they take becomes one of them. It's not just killing, it's conversion. The woman who jumped? She's one of them now, swimming in the harbor, luring others. The population doubles every 5 years. In 20 years, Ketchikan Harbor will be 90% Kushtaka. And we can't stop them because the economy depends on waterfront tourism. Keep sending tourists. Keep feeding the Kushtaka. It's the price of business. I'm 400 miles from the ocean now, but I still hear them. In rivers, in lakes, even in my bathtub sometimes. Voices calling me to the water, my dead grandmother, my ex-boyfriend, even children I'll never have. crying for help. The Kushtaka marked me that day on the dock. They won't stop until I'm in the water with them, so I avoid water completely. I shower in 30 seconds. I won't swim, won't boat, won't even walk near rivers. Because I know they're waiting. In every body of water in Alaska, wherever water touches land, they're there. Waiting to mimic the voice you most want to hear. Waiting to drag you down and make you one of them. The missing tourists, they were drowned by their own grief, lured by voices of dead loved ones, and now they're Kushtaka too, swimming in harbors across Alaska, calling to new victims. The cycle never ends. And no one stops it because tourism money is more important than tourist lives. Welcome to Alaska. Stay away from the water.